Welcome back to the X Podcast. I am at the long table with Zachary Brown and Timothy Moore.
Wow.
And we are, I was going to say live, but we're not live, but we are alive.
That's good.
So
You're getting ready to go to a live podcast recording
I am.
at the time of this recording.
Wow.
I
You just
am.
dated this thing, didn't you?
Yep.
Don't tell them which one it is. Don't
but
tell them which one.
I am
Exactly.
heading
wanna
to
know.
somewhere in
Don't give it up.
Dublin.
Yes.
And,
Ireland.
yes. And,
Dublin, Ireland.
And Mary
In
Swanson
promotion of your book.
is interviewing me.
In Dublin, Ireland. Got it.
Mary Swanson. You know who that is?
Maybe.
From Dumb and Dumber. Mary Swanson. Samsonite. I was way off.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't know who you're talking about, to be honest with you.
So anyways.
I wonder if half the references in your mind that you think
Are made
real
up.
are either made up or slight.
You know what it is, though?
No.
He says them with such confidence that everybody believes him.
He is the confidence man.
Well,
Yes, you are.
no, more than having confidence, I have a steel trap.
Oh.
I do have a steel trap. It's a curse.
Sometimes it's steel, but what if sometimes it's not steel? Like, what
Like
if
Swiss
could the
cheese.
steel trap ever leak?
Steel.
I mean,
Could you ever get
What?
the quote wrong?
I don't remember everything, but
Could you get the wrong person saying that quote? Like when you think it's Spurgeon, but it's actually Elon Musk.
no. No, there's a lot I get wrong. But if I'm quoting some like one of my old favorite authors, I'm
Sometimes
Pretty
maybe
sure.
just the wrong book of the Bible. The wrong chapter. That's possible. We do versal, so
No,
it's
but when
possible all of us get it wrong.
no, but usually I'm pretty like open about that. I'll just be like, Paul
Somewhere-
says somewhere
in the Bible.
I don't usually just pull something out like in hope, like
Proverbs
Titus
17
1:3.
says that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah. So I feel like I'm pretty honest if I don't know.
I want to start fact checking all your quotes
Please
live.
do. Please do.
On these.
Honestly, it's a curse because I don't know if it was at the arena, but we were somewhere, and I mean, really like intelligent, well-known speaker was quoting something that I knew was originally said by St. Augustine or somebody else, and they quoted it as somebody else, and in my mind I'm like, oh, this is killing me. This is killing me. This is killing me. You're on a stage in front of 10,000 people.
Well,
and
what
you're-
if that person also said it after
That-
St. Augusta? And
that's called a misattribution?
but
when it's kind of like those things like
yeah, but
on
we do that all the
Facebook.
time. In general, like in fact, I have a pastor.
Oh,
I have a pastor
yeah.
who says this once. He goes, he'll tell one of the other pastors we meet together in group, and he says, "Now listen, when they say something good, he's like, I just want you to know, I'm going to quote you the first time I say that, but after that, I'm not going to quote you anymore." It's part of a funny, the first time you say it to a group, you quote them. They're like, I don't care. That's fine. The next time you just say it like it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe somebody did that with St. Augustine.
Just wait at least 5 years, and then no one will remember the original.
Or 300 years
They
later.
won't.
It could be.
Exactly.
It's not right though. It's kind of like a little bit of an intellectual theft. I don't know. I try, if I believe it's somebody, like I will probably go out of my way in an annoying way in a sermon to be like, hey, I was talking to somebody the other day and they brought up this,
Yeah.
or I heard somebody say this, because I don't like the idea of just pretending
Right.
that's,
that you originated
yes.
something.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm just OCD about it. I don't know. But
That's
Good to see you.
as Zack Brown once said, for God to love the world.
Oh,
It was the only
I remember when
son.
he said that.
Yeah,
it was
I remember.
impactful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was powerful.
I was like, we should stick that on a sign and put it, hang it, or raise it at football games.
I was like, man.
You know, when
that's
people
really
kick
good.
off the field goal
Yes.
point
I mean, they
after.
used to do that at wrestling events. Austin 316. They had all hold up
Yeah,
signs.
good point.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. You weren't allowed to watch wrestling, were you?
I was not allowed to watch wrestling. as
But
a kid.
witchcraft was cool.
No, it wasn't. Actually,
okay.
we were not allowed to do that either.
He's been set free from that.
I've been
Now witchcraft's
Have you?
cool.
Thinking back to staff retreat,
What's wrong with that?
What happened?
there was a game that was played.
Yeah, House of Danger.
Well, wait. You guys played a wicked game at the staff conference? Wait, what game did you play? Did you let demons in? What happened? Wait,
These
what?
are my favorite
I'm
moments.
sorry. What did
We did not play.
What did you
a
guys play?
wicked game.
Did you play a wicked
What'd you
game?
play? Were you rolling dice? The wrong kind?
No.
Were you doing incantations again?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Did you get out your wand?
No.
Did you put on your wizardry hat?
This is
Did
incredible.
you work up your spells? Did
I
you
can't even
Did you
respond.
have a rat and Toad's foot and whatever else you use inside of your potions?
Good. If
Potion
you're
number 9?
listening, none of what he is saying
Okay, good.
is true and has ever happened to me.
But what game do we play?
It's called House of Danger.
What is it?
It is a
Game of Wicker.
choose your own adventure board game.
That was a very safe
Style
description.
after the 1980s, like choose your own adventure books.
Yeah, I remember those.
You remember those?
I do.
It-
That was a very safe
Hardy
description.
Boys.
Hardy Boys were
Is
more
it the Hardy Boys?
were more detective, like just straight.
No, but
detective
didn't they
novels.
have? Is it on a Hardy Boys?
But it's from
Did
a
I get the
site-
wrong one. There was even was it
not
Christian
Ray
books?
Bradbury. There was
There was a group of books. It was
Yes.
adventure something, whatever, and you could go if you want to turn to this kind of thing. You
page,
turn to
to
this
this
page and
page.
you read the rest. Do you remember that?
That's well. These are.
Doesn't the Hardy
this,
Boys do that?
No,
I want
this
to
board
fact
game.
check myself because I
This
don't
board
want to
game
quote
is
myself
based
wrong.
off of books from the 80s, and in the board game, you are an aspiring detective and a psychic investigator.
So, okay, there
Whoa.
was. You see, I was waiting for it. He buried the lead.
How's that bearing the lead?
Yeah, it's just an adventure game
It is an adventure game.
with a psychic detective that's leading you where the ghosts have gone.
No, there's no ghost that we've discovered yet. We've just
Okay,
you loved it.
it was actually weirdly fun.
Yeah, see exactly.
Felt wrong.
What
I don't know. I don't recognize these.
the
Okay.
books?
I shouldn't have probably said I limited.
All right, for our poor listeners.
Yeah,
here's-
they don't care
here-
about
here's
that.
the thing.
Let's move on.
Here's the thing. A lot of exciting things going on, and Zachary, there's been a lot that you've been thinking through. Like even you were talking offline.
Actually, he said he had a problem with your new car.
Okay. Oh,
That's what he said.
Okay.
He said, I think we should talk about how you are actually contributing to the problem we have in our culture today, which is we don't know what to do with these
Electric
depleted
vehicles.
batteries and what it's
They're
actually
leaving a mess.
taking to create these batteries and how it is more harmful for the environment than actually fossil fuels.
If you're listening and you don't know what is happening,
That's what you told me offline, and I just
is
said
this
I'd
based
say
on
for
our
you.
conversation the other day? What I told you, my friend said.
no, it's actually not. But
But I want to know.
Russ just got a new car.
Yep, brand new
shout-
car because he
shout
got
out.
a new book, and so he decided
Shout
I
out.
need a new car to go with my new book.
Yes.
I had my Altima,
It's a New
paid
York
off
Times
Altima
bestseller.
for 3 years that I was having to take into the shop every month. And then I got T-boned the same day I was having to take it
Yeah.
back in, and then found an incredible deal.
Yeah.
On a electric
All
vehicle.
electric car.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
are now in the EV world.
I'm in the EV world.
Yeah,
I
look
have
at
always
you,
wanted to
man.
drive an EV.
Tell me,
Yeah,
do you
so
like
cool.
it?
I love it.
What's like? Give me like your top
Yeah.
3 highlights or moments.
Well,
or
number
whatever.
one, I've never driven a new car, and it's a brand new car, and so I
What's
feel
it
like
feel
I've-
like?
I feel like
I never have either.
I don't know. I feel like I've gone to the future because it's not only is it brand new, so there's a lot of really nice features.
Yeah.
But it is EV, and EVs tend to feel more futuristic. The ride is very smooth. The features are really interesting, and even just on the exterior, there's just some interesting little pieces that I think they've just put on EVs to make them,
Cool.
Yeah, cool. I love not paying for gas. This may
You love not having to stop at a gas pump. Never having to have that stop in the middle of your day where you have to go to a gas pump and it just takes a long time to refuel. I mean, it's got to be nice to be free of that.
This is an aside.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
There's a little tongue in cheek.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you still unfortunately have to do that. Sometimes your situation, you still have to stop and get a recharge.
Yes.
It's sometimes, not always.
Yes.
How do you feel about gas stations? Just as an aside, real quick.
Whoa.
What do you mean?
You and gas stations, your personal aesthetic.
Gosh.
Oh,
does
wow.
not, like,
That seems offensive.
just
Yeah. You see, this is one of those moments where people just because I'm a foodie, they assume I don't ever people are still shocked I love Waffle House.
like, would you get a gas station hot dog to eat?
I actually would.
in an emergency setting.
I actually in an emergency setting. I actually would.
Not even an emergency setting.
And listen,
I think
there's
you
some
would.
nice gas stations out there.
Sheets.
There are.
I can, especially as somebody who's grown up loving road trips, I can win and roam a good gas station stop.
Okay.
Yeah, I can win and roam a good gas station
Now
stop.
you can't.
Now you
Your
can't.
life has been ruined.
Well, improved. But
Okay.
I also ride with mostly people that have to go to gas stations, so I
Oh.
still can enjoy it.
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
can enjoy it.
Yeah.
And people get. It's funny. The person that was talking to me that helped me, get into this new EV. He said, a lot of people don't even like EVs because they look at it as like a political statement, which is, I think,
virtue
stupid.
signaling. I feel that every time I see you driving in it.
But I do care about the environment, and I do believe, I do like the idea of not leaving a carbon footprint. And so for a lot of reasons, I have always thought one day I would love to get into an EV. I didn't think I'd be able to this soon. Incredible deal, because right now there are, with this one, an $11,000 upfront rebate for this. So I got an incredible deal. I do not like to spend a lot of money on cars or car payments. That's one of those places I'm weirdly frugal. But
that's a big deal.
Yeah,
I mean, that gets it under 100,000. So if you, that's I have a question about the carbon footprint.
Okay.
Let's play devil's advocate, because this is obviously one.
Okay.
What is your take on the other side of that argument of the impact of the batteries?
Yeah. So this is where I thought, because I told you on Monday that I have a very conservative friend politically when it comes to environment that was like, oh, well, it's even worse for it.
Yeah. I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
That you can't get rid of the batteries. The process to make them is really bad. That they will be with us forever and pollute the ground to get rid of
Who
them.
have you heard this from?
Oh, just a variety of sources, like no one in particular, but that's the narrative.
Like you've read that from
that's
scientific journals?
Oh yeah, scientific journals have talked about those and everything.
You're grinning as
they
you're saying
haven't.
that.
Huh?
You're grinning as you're saying that.
Yeah, of course not. That's not, but that's the
Right.
narrative I'm saying that's the narrative of the argument that's being made politically.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of that I'm not saying that scientifically, and I'm just saying that is one of the arguments that people are making, especially when
Sure.
I think it was Tesla built their battery factory out in Arizona, which was, I think, one of the largest under roof factories ever built. It's over 1 million square feet or something of concrete or whatever. And that was the narrative that kind of came out of that, is like, do people know what happens to create these batteries?
Yeah.
And what happens that we can't get rid of them?
Yeah.
Well,
And
And even delving into the more conspiratorial in nature, there's people who imply that the government's now looking for deposits of lithium in order to make said batteries, and some people would say that.
Well, and we can't get.
Some people would say that where North Carolina is, and there's a devastation, and towns are run away, that there's lithium. I don't subscribe to that.
The government caused. I've heard that. You think it's because of lithium?
So that's the if the narrative of batteries being bad for the environment and different things is the more mainstream narrative you hear.
That's
the lithium and all that's the more extreme version of that.
So when it comes to the whole battery thing and all that, my response is probably going to be disappointing. I will just admit ignorance. I've not researched all that, so I don't know enough to rebut it or acknowledge it or whatever. I think I will say, you both know I tend to be pretty skeptic about conspiratorial circles. And when it comes to the environment, when it comes to the scientific process, I tend to, if there are things that the great consensus of scientific data is on the same page with, not just nationally but internationally, I tend to trust that a whole lot more than fringe circles that to me would be way more politically dominated. There are way more political reasons to keep being for fuel and for oil than there would be political reasons to try to help the environment. And so, in my mind, I don't know enough to debate scientifically what that is. But if the great consensus in serious scientific journals began to be, we've all been wrong, and we need to just get a whole lot more gas into the air and get rid of all the EVs, then I would probably take that a little bit more seriously.
And you'll sell your car? Would you sell it?
Yeah. You can hold me to it.
I don't know if that exists, but I'm looking through some scientific journals just to find it so that I can bring it back on here and hold you to it.
Yeah.
No, but I do think that...
do you think that's a serious argument?
Nah, I don't. I mean, there's probably some validity to, I think, the process for what we have to mine, whether it's lithium, nickel, cobalt, all those different metals and things that you need in order to do batteries. I'm sure there's impact in doing that. Is it a greater impact than fossil fuels and, the burning of that? I don't know. They've also made cars a lot cleaner. I mean, the regulations and stuff, they say it is way smaller than it ever used to be. I mean, diesels cannot have black smoke coming out of the back of them. They put all kinds of regulations. They reburn the fuel over and over again, catalytic converters, all these different things. So they have made it better. There's just a ton. I mean, there's just 8 billion people on the planet, and I don't know how many cars are on the planet, and so there's definitely impact from it.
You don't think in 20 years we're all just going to be driving hydrogen cars anyways?
No, not even close. They said, how many years ago did we say we'd be driving electric cars? We're not even close at what the percentage of people drive
How does a hydrogen car work?
Well, that'd be I mean, it's not dangerous, but he's talking about harnessing the power of hydrogen. I mean,
not nuclear per se.
I want a nuclear car. Nuclear fusion or fission. I don't know which one. But I've heard as well about like hydrogen. I mean, you have other cars where they're burning alcohols. That's been around for a long time, using alcohol to burn. You know, there's things like that. Natural gas cars have been around for a long time. There's no infrastructure for this stuff. That's the problem. And even electric has probably made the most advance, and we can probably thank one person for that.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Your favorite.
He's my favorite. He's not his favorite. But seriously, you probably can thank, we in this country can thank Elon Musk for pushing the electric vehicle
to the forefront
to
of the
where it is
conversation.
today by creating the infrastructure he did for Tesla that also then kind of forced everybody else to kind of begin to do this stuff and catch up. And so now, but I don't know if you heard this. So for the environmental stuff, this is what I'll give you a reason why I don't think. Volvo came out, I think it was, 3-4 years ago.
They're German,
however long
right?
ago. I think so, or it might be Scandinavian, one of them. So I think it was Volvo that came out a few years ago, back when this was a hot topic, and we have to get back probably when California was trying to say that by 2030 everybody's going to be on this, and they're pushing everybody to be electric cars, and they don't even have enough electric to exist now with the number of people they have. I mean, they have problems now, and most of the power, I'd say most, but a lot of, if not most of the power, think about this, that gets into California comes from hydro. It comes from Hoover Dam. I mean, initially, they used to take and run power out there. So, and then you have problems where they have to shut down turbines because we don't even have enough water to be able to. So again, all of these things are all connected and serious problems. But Volvo came out, if I'm getting this right, and you feel free to fact check me, I can't remember, but I think they said several years ago that by 2030 they were only going to be producing electric vehicles. They stepped back from that. I heard that recently. They backed up. Nope, that's not the case. We're not going to be able to do that. Now, I do see a lot of high-end sports car, hyper, and supercars manufacturers are starting to do combined fuel and electric. Hybrid. And then you got the Rivera. You got some of the most elite and fastest production car we have is all electric. And so there's some of that I think will draw interest from wealthy people that can afford them. And we're talking about $3 to $5 million for a car, you know?
Yeah.
And you're starting to see Lamborghini, the Revuelto, certain things like that. Now they have this Corvette. Now they have the E-Ray. They always have these. Now they're not getting rid of the engines yet, but you can see them moving toward it. They're actually combining electric motors but they haven't got rid of their, And so what I'm saying is I don't think the infrastructure is anywhere close, and I don't think the infrastructure will be there in 20 years.
No,
could be wrong, and maybe that wouldn't, but I just don't see us moving in that direction, I guess.
Not without a serious investment into it. But I think that you do see, though, a shift. I feel like I've seen a shift in just the last probably 5 years even. Before, I think most car manufacturers had maybe one. Yeah. And now I feel like there's multiple electric vehicle options. And now you see electric trucks becoming more mainstream, more than ever. And so I feel like they are becoming more mainstream.
They are.
More than what probably any of us realize.
Yeah. And Chargers are becoming more mainstream. And I mean, I was talking to Steve Illich, who helped me with this ARIA process, and talking about it's going to become normative when they're having homes built. Will I have a charging station inside? Like, charging station on the. So I'm probably in the middle of what you're saying. I think, Gavin Newsom put out some crazy projections of, we're going to have everybody. I think those.
And then they do rolling blackouts.
Yeah. I mean, all those crazy, like, intense projections of where we're going to be are ridiculous. But I don't know if I agree with you that within 20 years it's not going to be really normative. I think the industry is going to look a whole lot different in 20 years.
Let's go around the table. I've got a couple pop questions
Okay.
for the table based around this.
Well, wait.
What? Go ahead.
About this?
Yeah, about electric vehicles.
Okay, because I was just, I think one of the biggest things I was just going to say, the reason why I'm not saying that there won't be, I mean, there's people popping up chargers all the time, so that is going to be more proliferated. Proliferated. That's a hard word to say. Proliferated.
You're trying to say profligator.
Yeah, profligated.
Okay.
Peripheralated. No, I'm just messing up. That is going to be one of those things that I do think. I think there's a bigger problem that has nothing to do with the access. I just think it's the source. We just have a massive electrical shortage. And it's not just this.
That was one thing.
It's
I was asking
AI.
about.
It's all these consumptions. So I do believe that is going to be one of the big problems and the thing that we are going to have to overcome. I don't think it's that we can't put chargers and people putting chargers in their homes and doing all this. I'm just not so sure
We have enough
what it's going to
energy.
take that we have enough energy with what we're
To make it
currently doing. I'm saying to go 80% of our country is on electric vehicles. That kind of
Yeah.
that type of thing. That was my point.
Yeah. So it's fine. Well, I was going to ask you a question about that. But
sorry. I
Would,
didn't mean
would
to
you?
steal it.
No, it's okay. Would you own an electric car right now if you had the ability to own an electric car? Yes, or no?
I would.
You would.
Because of the technology.
Okay.
And it'd be nice not to go to the gas pump. I have no problem with electric. I would own an electric because of the
Buy
technology.
your Tesla. I've been trying to get you to buy your
The
Tesla.
problem is that the car that I like, the fun type car that I really want, is not probably a daily driver. And I've always had a fascination with sports cars. I'm getting to the age. My kids have moved out. At some point, I want to get one. It wouldn't be a Tesla.
There you go.
I want a fuel car for it. There's a difference. And anybody that's into sports cars, usually they really want a fuel car. They don't want an electric unless you're just trying to do pure speed and like the
That Tesla
certain-
we were in LA, holy smokes. You and Kevin were getting sick in the back, remember? That white one?
I didn't get sick. Kevin, I didn't think it was that bad. He was just, yeah.
But I've never...
Oh, that wasn't... You've not driven one of the ludicrous ones then. I drove one early, and it'll put your head in the back of the seat and your chest through the...
I mean, man.
But
crazy.
then you go drive a Porsche 911 Turbo S that does 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, and it's a different feeling. And when you drive that, you're like, that beats a Tesla any day of the week.
There you go.
The feeling is just different. So I don't know. For a daily driver, I would love it. We're actually considering that for one of our next vehicles.
Tesla?
No.
For the
But
record,
an electric car.
For the record, I also would be okay with an electric vehicle as well. So,
Yeah.
down the road.
I mean, I
We're
would.
not going to be in the market anytime soon, but
Yeah. I absolutely
I would.
would. I have no issues with them, and I think they can be incredibly convenient. I would set up a 220 plug in my garage, and I can
And
keep it
go
charged,
for
and
it.
I have to go pump. I would do it in a heartbeat.
But the more interesting question, and I actually asked you this yesterday. I don't know if you remember me asking this, and I was surprised by your answer because I asked you. I said, "Do you believe in, or are you a proponent of nuclear as a source of energy?" Because we were talking
Yeah,
about the energy
we were.
crisis problem, and I was surprised by your answer. You said no.
What's your question?
Well, I was,
And I want you to ask it to. I want you to ask the same question to Russell first.
Okay, Russ, is nuclear a viable form of energy for the future?
Yes.
Should we be using it, and should we be going to nuclear more than what we do now? Because the big push is solar turbines, wind turbines, hydro electricity. Why not the push to nuclear? If you believe in it.
I mean, what's the risk factor?
I mean, it blows up.
There's a lot of risk. Anytime you're splitting atoms, there's risk. I mean, I can just give you a couple.
Yeah.
I can give you a couple of points in history. That could be some.
I know what nuclear power does. I just meant I think that would be where my ignorance of
Nuclear runoff.
how do you harness it in a way
Ways.
that doesn't have
Just go-
latent risks.
Just go put it somewhere and put a box around it for 50 miles and say no one goes near that
Yeah.
for the rest of the time.
Yeah. That would be my hesitancy.
So even though it could be a really positive thing, we should not be investing into it.
Just for weapons.
Okay.
Wow. My answer to you was that I don't think that we shouldn't consider it. That wasn't my point when we had the conversation. There have been some experiments recently that they are messing around with nuclear. They're testing, I think it's nuclear fission, and they've been able to, in a very small, sustain like and the amount of wattage that comes from a single one is insanely higher because we are using forms of energy right now that do not have really significant output. There's just not a lot of energy in it. And so I do think there are better sources. What I was telling you was one that I found interesting was Hugh Ross in his book on weathering climate change. You know, I forget what the net title of it was. I think, weathering climate change. But he talks about a couple other forms of energy, other sources that we have. Like I pulled this up. He pulled up deuterium is one.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Another one was tritium. Tritium was the one that he talked about the most. It's like available in the mantle, the crust. There's plenty of it here in the U.S. Not U.S. or just in the world. There's plenty of tritium. I don't know anything about this other than what I've read of somebody who's an astronomer. So let's put it that he's an astronomer. He's done a bit of stuff with geology, but he's also primarily an astronomer. But says that it's way safer than anything nuclear that puts out massive amounts of power in doing it. So your plants and all that stuff, you don't have as much of the risk. We've been messing with it and testing it and trying to do stuff with it for 10 years, but thinks that the advancement of that could be ratcheted up if we actually put a lot of resources into some of these other, isotopes and things that you could use to pull energy. And so what I'm saying, when I was just saying that to you in response, I was like, there might be other ones other than nuclear. I do think wind, solar, fossil fuel, and even an electric. I don't think any of those things keep up with 8+ billion people on our planet and our consumption of power.
And it's only going to get worse, as you stated, as AI continues to grow. Data centers continue to grow, and I don't think people realize how much energy those Amazon data centers and those grids take up. It's insane. And as we get more digital,
and AI is the biggest.
And as we get more digital, all of our lives are basically located on those data banks.
And then we want to have all electric cars, and we want to get rid of fossil fuels. I do think there's solutions out there. I think it's hard globally or anything to kind of put. Like, what do you invest in? I think who's doing that? Who's paying the money to figure out this stuff? Are governments doing this? Are private entities? The kind of person that I think who moved us to EV vehicles, like an Elon Musk, this is the kind of stuff you'd think. He's trying to go to Mars. He's the kind of guy that you'd think would put all kinds of resource
behind it.
Or Jeff Bezos, or somebody that's got resources.
And he moves on to
It does seem like we've been hearing for years. Solar, wind, water, and I don't think the answers are there. How do you go into some
Which, by the way, I was being tongue in cheek earlier. I don't think we should develop more nuclear weapons. I think we probably have enough. But
I would assume most people picked up on that.
Yeah. But it was just interesting. I did a deep dive over the weekend over all the different nuclear powers and all the things. I think that. I don't know. My mind in these moments always goes to all the obstacles we are thinking are insurmountable now. Every time there's a new technology, they always face that. I don't want to oversimplify it to that. I'm not saying that these obstacles aren't real,
but they can be overcome.
Yeah, I imagine everything when we went from horse and buggy to car. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Our whole country's gonna, we're gonna.
Yeah.
But here's the challenge, I think. This is an interesting, progress is now up against something it never was back then. And that is concern for environment. The last 100 years, there was not much of a concern. I won't say the last 100 years. So it didn't matter what it cost for progress to happen. I think now there's more of, I would say, a conscientious objection to some of the potential progress, only because of what's the fallout and the impact of it, right?
I mean, in an ideal world, the beautiful thing about electric would be you get both. It's progress and you're helping the environment.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do think there is a serious question to answer, and that
Where
is
the energy
like batteries
coming
are batteries. There's a reason why they tell you don't throw away batteries. There's a reason why they ask if you have lithium batteries in your luggage before you're carrying on. Like, there's an inherent risk when you have that, and those are materials, and they're things that we're going to have a problem figuring out how to deal with all the batteries that don't hold charge, that don't work. Like, it is a real question. It's not. I think it's one of those ones that nobody. I think it's kind of what some an environmentalist would say is probably the lesser of two evils right now. So it's like we turn a blind eye to do it, but I do think that there's an impact in it, and that's going to be debated. So I just don't know that electric is the answer. It might be a answer.
Yeah.
But
So if you're listening in conclusion to this whole conversation, we are living in a time in which Monsters, Inc. was actually futuristic, 25 years in the future.
wow,
And
laughter.
we need to figure out that a new source of energy, laughter, is better than scream energy.
Just bottle up laughter
You
and
just
plug it
went
in
there.
Plug it in
You
there.
just went there.
Well, I did just get back from Disney, so
Oh,
Dang, you did. You were hanging out with Mickey
I was hanging out
for
with
your
Mickey.
10-year anniversary.
that's why I
Happy
saw the
anniversary.
picture.
Yeah. That was a lot of
Okay.
fun.
Do we have time to go into something more self-help development, or
Yeah, probably not.
no? We'll save that one for next time.
Sure.
Okay.
What do you guys say?
So, who's getting the next? So you have an electric car. When are you getting one?
Whenever my two cars that I have now bite the
Your
dust.
next car will be electric.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to explore it. I don't know if it's going to be right for me at that time of my life.
I think there's some interesting things that are happening with this. Like, so one of the unintended consequences of a bunch of people getting on electric cars, and so now this is also changing, is they found out we're not getting road tax. Because every gallon is taxed by ODOT, and money goes toward roads. So now this is going up. In some places, it's really expensive. In Ohio, it's not terrible. I think it's
You
like
get
$200.
taxed
I think
on
it's
your purchase?
$200. It's every year. It's a registration tax. So every
For
year
your
when you go to
tags.
get your tags renewed, I
That's
think
a-
it's
that
an
would be the way to
additional
do it.
$200. So instead of paying $60, you're going to pay, I think, $260, or it could be more than that, and that's going to go way up. They're not getting
The
money for roads and infrastructure anymore, and this has been a problem. It costs way more than that in California, probably because of the number of people that have been pushed to EV. So I just think every single
everybody
decision.
in LA drives EV almost.
Well, I mean,
it looks like 80%.
it doesn't. We were just in LA. It doesn't feel like that at all.
Every other car was a Prius or Tesla.
Oh,
Every other car.
except for the sports cars that
Prius-
I was looking
Yeah.
for. I don't.
Is Prius a full electric
No,
car?
it's a
I
hybrid.
thought they were hybrid.
Prius is a hybrid. I think.
Are they all hybrid?
Yeah.
I think they're not.
Well, I mean, that's
full
my
electric,
point.
but
Yeah.
they're moving that direction. But I think there's unintended consequences. I think it's a lot more. I don't know for sure, but I thought I heard somebody say that it's getting up there. So I think every time we move one direction, I think there's fallout from it that we're going to have. And not to say that's not warranted and that we won't have to figure that out, but the government figured out real fast. They're like, wait a minute, we taxed everybody getting gas at the pump. And that's how we help pay for roads and other things. And now they're not going to the pump. And so I wonder if you're going to see, again, this is what I think. It's a guess. More and more people, you talk about houses having electric chargers built in with all this stuff. Electric companies are just going to start jacking. They're going to be
Their
like,
rates are gonna start going up.
why? Because of supply and demand.
More supply
Demand. I mean, it's just you start ratcheting up the demand, and they don't have the supply to keep up. They can raise their rates significantly, and you need it. Not just for your house, but you need it for your transportation. You need this, and so I know every electric company and all of that they're working really hard. In fact, I know of plans that are right out here in front of our building where they're trying to bring transmission wires, and they're going to bring them in so they can get them to the substation right here in front of our building, just up the street. And they're doing it because of the need for power. And so This is like there's everything is connected and everything has a trickle effect. And so what's going to happen when we keep more reliant on electric over any of the other ones and we don't have enough electricity or can't produce it fast enough, the cost is going to go up. That's just supply and demand.
And when the cost goes up, it's not going back down. Like that cost is going to increase in the short term. And it's just like inflation now. I mean, inflation, by all accounts and measures, is pretty much under control now here in America, according to all the things. But we've equated inflation with these higher prices, and the prices, while they may have gone down some, they've not gone down at all, and they're probably not going to go back down to what they were. It's the same situation.
When this podcast comes out, we're going to have a new president.
And if Donald Trump wins, one of the first things he's going to do to address the prices of everything is he's going to move heavily on energy. And that's his plan. I mean, that's what he said. He's
drill,
drill, baby, drill. He is going to go on, he believes that increasing the amount of energy resource, which we used to have a lot more in reserves here because of a lot of that stuff that was going on, that we have depleted most of, that he believes that if we increase the supply of that it's going to drop the prices in regards to some aspects of energy. I don't know if that's fuel dropping or I don't know what that it's going to.
I'm not saying
but there is a trickle down effect because, right, if transportation costs more money, all of your goods are going up. Grocery stores going up because trucks are having to drive your produce and everything to the stores. And so they pay more, so are we. So if those costs go down, that'll be the question.
Yeah.
Will the prices go down?
I did a deep dive on American energy.
You guys do a lot of deep dives.
Word
of the day.
Word of the day. Did you know that most of the oil that we pull up out of the ground here in America is a specific grade, and that most of the refineries that are here in America are not spec'd and suited to refine the American oil that we pull up out of America. So we pull oil up out of America, we ship it off to other countries. They ship back crude oil that is more suited for our refineries, and we refine that.
Yeah, and that's what's made us one of the larger exporter of oil in the world.
Correct.
But it's kind of that two-sided deal. It's like we're exporting, and we are. I think we might actually be the largest exporter of oil in the world.
We're actually currently producing the most oil of any country in the world.
We export more. Most people never know that or think that about us. But it may be because of the refinement process. That's why we're exporting it all, and then we import crude oil that we can actually with our refineries too.
But that's got to add costs. That process, don't you think?
Yeah, but if you slow down the amount of export, then you're just hurting your overall equilibrium
GDP.
for bringing it in. So yeah, your GDP is going down, all that stuff. So I do think that was one way to attack it. You know what I mean? If you're going to do that, it'd be nice to create refineries so you can just refine it right here.
You would think. No one ever talks about that.
But why would you expend the money to create the refineries when just depends on which president goes into office or which Congress is in there as to whether or not you can even drill and get that oil?
I mean, we're drilling now more than
we've had to. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I'm saying the political uncertainty of that would cause me, as somebody who'd spent all this money in a refinement process of creating that, going, I'm not putting my money in that. All I have to do is one little change politically in there, and all of a sudden now I can't get the crude, resource that I need to refine. So yeah, I don't know.
You would think, but I feel like if we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about energy, I think it's also fair to bring up the dark side of energy, and that is there's a lot of money and lobbying in energy in this country, and has been for the big oil companies are heavily incentivizing whoever is in office, I don't care who it is, to not invest resources into future development of new technologies to help with energy.
Totally don't disagree with you on that.
And until we figure that problem out, I think it's going to be really hard for us to step into the future.
It's also part of the reason why probably the government hasn't done more to create the infrastructure for electric vehicles.
Probably.
I'm just saying there's people with deep pockets that are probably got their handouts for everybody in Washington to make sure you stay with their interests instead of the government actually putting infrastructure money in to do it. And I'm not saying they're not. It's just These are all the conspiracies that people kind of think when you think about Washington. So,
Well, I
it's an
don't think these are
conversation.
conspiracies. These are real challenges to overcome.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we're going to, with the gridlock that we have in Washington, be able to overcome these obstacles anytime soon. It doesn't seem like.
First place you start is you change the rules of who's in Washington.
Or you change the who's allowed to donate to campaigns.
All of it. Just change all the rules. We should do one about like what's one thing in your country you would change. We should do a whole episode on that.
That'd be fun.
You had a great idea.
That'd be fun.
We'll do that another time. But now that we talked about it, I think there's one thing I think I would zero in on.
Okay.
And it's in Washington.
How much, a lobby, I don't know. At times I wonder how much of it does come from lobbyists. And obviously the oil companies, there are people that just hike that up even when they don't need to. And there's so much greed and corruption. And there's a lot of it that goes back to supply and demand. I mean, even with EVs, a lot of it is if places realize that there's a rise of EVs and they feel like it would be profitable for them, there's going to continue to be more and more car companies that are producing EVs. There's going to continue to be more EV chargers. So I feel like a lot of it is supply and demand. And the supply and demand will create better and better infrastructure. I have had the thought, a month and a half into having this EV, I feel like I'm about 5 years out. I was telling somebody this the other day. I was sitting beside at North Star because they had just bought an EV. I said, don't you feel like we're about 5 years out from it being like really convenient to have an EV? Like it's convenient depending on where you live. And honestly, like my daily thing is that there's all these fast chargers in the parking lot between Lifetime and Roosters. And so for right now, as long as I don't skip the gym, it's pretty easy. I put it there, charge, go in the gym, come back out, fully charged. I'm good.
I think the couple things that will fix this with the electric vehicles, and I think technology is improving and will. I think they've got to get way longer on a charge. You've got to be able to get way more out of a charge. The 200 to something is just not enough.
I agree.
I think that's problem one you have to solve. Number two is I think, and again, I don't know the physics behind this, so I could be saying something that's not even possible, figuring out how to charge faster. But I think, in my opinion, even if you could get legitimately to 500 or 600 miles on a charge, okay, like I would be fine with going on road trips. But I had a friend who came up for our daughter's wedding that drove their Tesla from Texas. And by the time he got here, he asked his wife, he was like, can I go trade this in on a truck?
Oh, yeah.
I do not want to drive back.
I would never drive cross country in an EV the way it is.
Nightmare.
Right now. Yeah.
Because Tesla will have and they'll take you and you got to go drive an hour and 30 minutes to this pump and get 30 minutes of charge. Drive 2 hours and 20 minutes to that pump, get this, and you spend so much time, you're like, this is miserable.
Well, and especially if you're on a road trip, because a lot of it is highway miles. Like that's one of the things that also shocked me too, that's different about EVs, is there is such a radical difference in the draining of your energy, whether it's charge, whatever.
You can't recharge.
When it comes to like city miles, great. Like if you're just kind of stop and go, like I found ways that you can actually even kind of recharge. You're stopping, but the moment you're just heading down at a really good cruising speed down the highway, I mean it goes quick. And so I would never take it on a road trip. They need to change that to where you can get 300 or 400 miles at least and charge way quicker. And I mean, again, I don't know the physics, but you would think they'd be able to. I mean, they used to be all super slow. Like a lot of them are still really slow. It takes 24 hours. Fast ones now, 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
it's getting better.
It's getting better.
So
we'll see.
All right.
Well, I don't know if this... wherever this impacted you spiritually, let us know. I feel like some childhood wounds were healed throughout the conversation. I get it. Sometimes that happens in these moments.
I love when you get like that.
There's a transcendent nature about kind of what just happened at this table. And so let us know what spoke to you and what you feel like your next step is. And I'm just kidding. But hopefully it was engaging.
I think people might. I'm curious if people have a reaction to
Questions.
this. Like half of this, we're just talking. We don't really know a lot of data, and so you may have studied a whole lot more, and you can enlighten us on some. So let's just say it that way. But if you have some thoughts in out of electric vehicles, now plus maybe you have one, you love it, whatever. We're just curious. Like we're just talking about the challenges that we're facing with it. So
absolutely. Hey, until next week, we will see you then.
Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.